Over the last couple of lessons, we've been working with the contents of a file. We've been opening the file. We've been reading the entire file. We have been grabbing it in one large chunk in a string. We've been splitting it up into a list. We've been processing it one line at a time by iterating over it using a loop. And these things are all great, but we're doing things in large chunks. What if we don't want to do them in large chunks? What if we want to be able to go through a file and pick and choose and grab just certain parts that we want? And you can absolutely do this. And I'm going to show you how to do it now using a couple very powerful functions built in to Python and dealing with files. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to be using the interpretive shell. So I'm going to open up the interpreter so I can be interactive here. I can interactively work with this. Now, I still have my lorem.txt file there, so let's go ahead and grab that. So we're going to say lorem file is going to be equal to open, and I want to open lorem.txt, just like we've done before. Now, before you start doing anything with this file, let's start to think about how lorem file is holding a representation to that file. So when we initially open up that file like this, we have access to that file, but there's something that's keeping track of our current position within that file. So how do we know where we are within that file? Well, it's pretty easy. There is a function on this file known as tell. Now what tell is going to do is it's going to give you back your current position within that file. So by default, you start at the very beginning of the file at index 0. You are at the 0 byte of the file. You're at the very beginning. You haven't done anything yet. So what happens when we read the file? So let's say I want to read the entire file like we did last time. I'm going to use the read function. It's going to spit back the entire file to me. Now, if I were to run my tell again, you're going to see I am now at index 1383, or the end of the file. So what does that mean and who cares? Well, if I were to go back and run read again, you're going to see I get back nothing. And the reason for this is because the read operation is unidirectional or unidirectional. I can only go from the beginning to the end. And once I'm at the end, I'm done. But that seems a little limiting. I don't want to restrict myself to that. What if I need to go back and read it again? What if that file is going to change and I need to go back and read it again? Or I want to go back and read the beginning of the first sentence, or I want to grab the third line or something like that. How do I do that? Well, there's another helper function that's built in here called seek. And what seek is going to allow us to do is to specify a location within the file that I want to go back to. So let's try that. Let's say lorem_file.seek, and I'm going to specify a location here of 0. I want to go back to the beginning of the file and start all over again. So now it returns back what index we are at again. So if I were to use tell again, you'll see that I am truly back at 0. And if I run read again, I'm going to get the entire contents of the file. And once again, now if I say tell, now I am back to the end again at 1383. So that's pretty good. And I know how to determine where I am in the file by using tell. I can read, or I could use read lines, or I could do whatever I wanted to do, any of those read type functions. And then I could use tell again and find out where I'm at. And then I could move back somewhere. I could go back all the way to 0, or I could go back somewhere in the middle. So I could do seek. And I could say, instead of going to 0, let's go to 500. Somewhere in the middle of the file. And then if I were to do read again, you're going to see I'm only going to get about half the file because I went back to index 500 and then read forward everything else. And this is all good. This seems to be working out okay. But what if I don't want to go that far? What if I don't want to read everything? What if I want to be a little bit more selective? All right. Well, let's reset ourselves back to the beginning. So I want to go back and I want to seek back to 0. Let's start at the beginning and let's be a little bit more choosy. Let's go ahead and move just a little bit ahead into the contents of our file. Let's move forward 12 spaces. So we're going to go to the 12th byte of the file by using seek. I'm going to move ahead to the 12th location. Now remember, in seek you are specifying an offset. a byte offset of where in the file you want to be. So I want to move ahead to the 12th byte. So now I am at number 12. And that's going to put me roughly past lorem ipsum up to the third word here. So that's roughly where I'm going to be. What if I just want to read that word? Well, in this case, I know there's 5 letters and I know there's 5 bytes in that. I want to read just that one. I don't want to read everything. So let's try that. I could say lorem underscore file dot read. Now read also takes a parameter of how many bytes I want to read. So similar to seek, seek takes in the index of where I want to go to. Read can specify the number of bytes I want to read. So I want to read 5. So as you see here, it gives me back dolor. Now that's great. And now I've moved ahead so I can say tell. So I can say where am I? I am now at the 17th byte. So I've started at 12. I read 5 and I've moved that pointer up 5 spaces. I am now at 17. So if I were to read 5 again, I'm now going to move up a little bit further, and that's great also, but we're a little bit restricted here, and if you've been able to determine that, then congratulations for you. If you're not seeing it yet, everything that we're doing here is absolute. So we seek to an absolute position. We read a predefined number of bytes. We use tell to say where are absolutely within the file, where am I? None of this stuff is relative. So how can we do that? Is there a way to maybe just move ahead another predefined number of bytes and then read some more? Or do I have to calculate exactly where I need to go and put myself out there? Well, there's really not a way to do that explicitly, but we can piece these things together and combine these pieces of functionality to figure out how we can do that. So in order to relatively move in a certain direction, we're going to use lorem underscore file. And in this case, I want to seek. Now remember, seek is going to take in the absolute location of where I want to go within my file. Well, we could be a little bit more selective of that. So if I wanted to move ahead 6 spaces, if I want to move ahead 6 bytes, well, I could figure out where I am currently and then simply add 6 bytes to that. Well, we can absolutely do that as well. We could say lorem underscore file dot tell. So give me where I am right now, and then let's add 6 bytes to that. So let's try that out. So now I am actually at location 28. I'm at the 28th byte. And now I could read again. I could say lorem underscore file dot read, and this time I want to read 12 bytes. And there I get back another word. So as you can see, I can be a little bit more selective in where I want to go within my file and where I am located currently and figuring out how to get there using tell. I can then go to a certain location within my file using seek, and I can use combinations of those things to move absolutely and relatively. And then I can read just certain sections or pieces of my file using read and specifying the number of bytes that I want to read. So as you see here, you can be a little bit more picky or a little bit more choosy in what you want to read, and you're not just limited to reading the entire file in large chunks.